Just your thoughts, maybe even just your feelings about him, your friend, and working with him.
Yeah, Lance is a very beautiful person, a special artist, and his grace and dignity, his shining light of character was just something really special.
Even under a question that could have shut down into a one-line guarded non-answer, Keanu chose openness over distance, warmth over caution. That's the exact same restraint you've seen in every other clip in this video, just aimed at honoring someone else this time, instead of protecting himself. Notice the pattern climbing as this story unfolds. A radio host lobbing joke questions about light bulbs and football just to get a reaction. A national broadcast pushing into his love life on live television, in front of millions of viewers. A morning show prying into personal regret. An internet meme built entirely off one candid, vulnerable photo he never consented to share, mocked for over 10 years. A stranger casually informs him, on camera, that he'd been nicknamed the internet's boyfriend without his knowledge or input. Each moment pushed a little further into territory that wasn't really about promoting a movie anymore, and every single time, Keanu's response stayed exactly the same size. Calm, brief, unbothered, and kind, no matter how personal or invasive the question became. Most people push that many times, in that many different directions, across that many years, would eventually snap somewhere along the way. A raised voice, a clipped, cold answer, a visible flash of irritation that tabloids could turn into their own separate headline the very next morning. Keanu never gave them that, not once, across any of these moments. But the moment that really shows what he's made of isn't even about him being asked something rude.
Why was it so important for you to sign on to this project? Obviously a very big, topic that a lot of women can relate to.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the reason. Eating disorders are diabolical and full of a lot of pain, and to be a part of a project that can be and hopefully entertain, but also be a part of a process of healing is...
It's about him refusing to let someone else be dismissed, even when it would have been easier to just move past it. During press for John Wick, Chapter 2, an interviewer tried to poke a hole in the franchise's entire moral logic, asking why audiences are meant to care so much about John Wick's murdered puppy, but not about the dozens of anonymous men he kills in the course of his revenge. Keanu doesn't dodge the question or get defensive about the franchise's writing. He engages with it directly, pointing out with a laugh that everyone operating in that criminal underworld understood exactly what they were signing up for, while the dog never did, and never had a choice in any of it. Even when the gotcha question is aimed at his work rather than his personal life, Keanu doesn't flinch or get prickly about it. He just answers it honestly, thoughtfully, on his own terms. Colbert has no comeback ready. The audience doesn't laugh, doesn't clap right away, they just sit with it, letting the weight of it land. No punchline follows because none is needed, and any joke would have cheapened it. In a single unscripted sentence, on live television, in front of millions of people, Keanu turned a talk show gimmick segment into the most human moment of the entire night. And once again, notice exactly how he did it. Not by shutting anyone down, not by deflecting with a joke to break the tension, just by telling the truth, plainly and completely, and letting that be enough on its own. So no, Keanu Reeves doesn't humiliate anyone on live television. Go back through everything you just watched. The radio host lobbing joke questions about light bulbs and football. The national broadcast prying into his love life in front of millions.
Did you know that she had a crush on you? No? Did you
She
have...
obviously didn't know I had a crush on her either.
Oh, wow.
People will know it when I get to it.
Okay.
Are you ready to be known, Keanu Reeves?
Absolutely not.
The morning show pushing for a regret he wasn't willing to give. An entire decade of the internet, mocking one candid, private photo, a stranger casually informing him he'd been crowned the internet's boyfriend without his knowledge. And, on the other side of it, moments where he defended a fictional dog's memory, honored a friend he'd lost, and quietly handed his own spotlight to a co-star who needed it more than he did. Not one of those moments ends with Keanu raising his voice, walking off set, or turning a bad question into a worse headline the next day. He does something rarer than humiliation, something harder to pull off consistently. He absorbs every awkward question, every uncomfortable pivot, every attempt to catch him off guard, and hands it back with grace instead of anger, humor instead of hostility, and honesty instead of ego. Radio hosts, national morning shows, late-night legends, it doesn't matter who's sitting across from him or what they're trying to bait him into saying. The result is always exactly the same, a composure that somehow lands harder and lasts longer in people's memory than any comeback line ever could. That's the whole story here. Not a man who tears people down to make himself look better, a man who simply refuses to be pulled down himself, no matter how many times someone tries. So which of these moments hit you the hardest? The Roman Kemp interview that the internet called the most awkward of all time, the BBC question about Sandra Bullock that fans said crossed a line, the quiet tribute to Lance Reddick, or that unscripted answer to Stephen Colbert about what happens when we die? Let us know in the comments which moment you'd have handled differently. And if you want more of Keanu Reeves' real, unscripted class in action, hit subscribe. We've got more of these coming every week.
Lose! I don't lose! I win! I win! I'm a lawyer! That's my job! That's what I do!
Striking him and causing serious, lasting injury to his wrist. Reeves' account was different. He testified that Silva had planted himself directly in front of the car, blocking him from leaving, and that the only contact came when Silva leaned onto the hood and then stepped backward on his own. Silva filed a civil lawsuit seeking more than $700,000 in damages, and the case dragged all the way to trial in 2011, 4 years after the actual encounter, surviving multiple delays, evidentiary disputes, and years of pre-trial motions before either side ever set foot in front of a jury. On the stand, under questioning from Silva's attorney, witnesses noted that Reeves appeared visibly irritated by some of the more pointed lines of questioning, occasionally drawing chuckles from the courtroom with his exasperated hand gestures as he tried to explain, again, exactly what had and hadn't happened that day. What came out during testimony, though, complicated Silva's version considerably. Accounts from the scene indicated Reeves had actually stayed behind after the incident, tried to check on Silva, and attempted to get him help, hardly the behavior of someone trying to flee a hit and run. After deliberating for less than 3 hours, the jury sided with Reeves unanimously, rejecting the lawsuit entirely and finding him not responsible for Silva's injuries. Here's the thing that makes this story different from almost every other celebrity loses his temper narrative. Even at the absolute top of the escalation, a courtroom, a formal lawsuit, 4 years of legal exposure over a 6-figure claim, the version of Reeves that emerges from the record isn't a man who lashed out and hurt someone. It's a man who was accused of doing that, defended himself under oath, showed visible irritation at being cross-examined over something he insisted didn't happen the way it was described, and was ultimately believed by 12 strangers on a jury. Even the worst, most serious, anger-adjacent moment of his career turns out, on closer inspection, to be a story about him staying at the scene to help the person he was accused of hurting. It's worth understanding where that particular limit privacy actually comes from, because none of these outbursts happened in a vacuum. In 1991, when Reeves was just starting to become a recognizable name in Hollywood, his older sister Kim was diagnosed with leukemia at 25, right as her own small acting career was getting underway. What followed was close to a decade of treatment, and by all accounts from people close to the family, Reeves reorganized his life around it, showing up at the hospital, staying present through the hardest years, long before his own fame had fully cemented itself with The Matrix. Family friends who spoke to reporters at the time described him spending long stretches simply sitting with her, present in a way that had nothing to do with cameras or publicity. Kim went into remission around the turn of the millennium, and today lives a quiet, largely private life on the island of Capri, deliberately out of the public eye, occasionally photographed by locals when Reeves visits her, rather than the other way around. It's not hard to see why a man who spent one of the most formative decades of his adult life protecting a sick sibling from outside scrutiny might, years later, have almost no patience left for a stranger blocking his car or a photographer's flash going off inches from his face during a quiet dinner. The privacy Reeves guards so fiercely was never really about ego, or about being difficult for its own sake. It's the same instinct that had him at a hospital bedside decades ago, just aimed, now, at keeping a little bit of that same protectiveness for himself. It's worth sitting with how differently this could have gone, and how differently these kinds of stories usually go for actors of his fame. A less careful celebrity could have said something in anger on that Sunset Boulevard sidewalk that got them formally charged, rather than simply photographed. A more image-conscious star could have settled the Silva lawsuit quietly out of court just to make the story disappear, rather than sitting through a public trial and answering every question under oath, risking exactly the kind of unflattering, irritated on the stand footage that ended up circulating regardless. Reeves did neither. He let the outbursts happen exactly once, in the moment, without spin, and then let a jury sort out the more serious accusation on the actual facts, rather than trying to manage the story himself. It would have been easy, and arguably smarter from a pure image management standpoint, to write a check and make Silva's lawsuit disappear years before it ever reached a jury box. Reeves chose the harder, slower, more exposing option, instead sitting through depositions, testimony, and cross-examination for years because he apparently cared more about being believed on the actual facts than about avoiding the discomfort of a public trial. That same willingness to just let an unflattering moment exist, rather than scrub it or explain it away, shows up in how Reeves has handled the aftermath of all of these clips over the years. He's never issued a formal statement addressing the autograph hunter video. He's never publicly apologized for the middle finger photos or tried to reframe them as somehow taken out of context. When journalists have brought up his complicated relationship with paparazzi in interviews since, he's tended to answer with the same dry, resigned honesty rather than defensiveness, acknowledging that fame comes with a loss of certain freedoms, that the trade-off is a real one, and that on the whole he considers himself lucky regardless of the parts of it he doesn't enjoy. It's a strikingly different approach from the standard celebrity playbook, where every unflattering clip typically gets followed by a carefully worded apology, a sympathetic interview explaining the real story, or a publicist quietly trying to get the footage taken down. Reeves has mostly just let the clips exist, unaddressed, the same way he lets most things about his private life exist without comment. That's the real reason these clips and court records keep resurfacing years after they happened, dug up again and again by fans who are almost gleeful to find any evidence that the internet's favorite wholesome celebrity is still a real person underneath the memes. It's not because Reeves is secretly volatile, and it's not because any of these moments reveal some hidden cruelty. It's because they prove the opposite of what you might expect, that even at his angriest, most cornered, and most legally exposed, weeks of tabloid coverage picking the moment apart from every angle, none of that happened here. If anything, each new clip that surfaces seems to deepen the affection people already have for him, treated less like evidence of a flaw, and more like confirmation that the nicest guy in Hollywood reputation was never a performance to begin with. Because a performance, by definition, doesn't crack under pressure the way a real person occasionally does. So when people say no one can handle Keanu Reeves at his worst anger, what they're often really reacting to isn't the anger itself, it's the shock of realizing that his worst is a swear word at an autograph hunter, a middle finger from a moving motorcycle, a shouted warning to a crowd of photographers on a dinner walk home, and a jury believing his version of one very bad afternoon on Sunset Boulevard. For almost anyone else in Hollywood, that would be considered a remarkably clean record, the kind of restrained history most PR teams would happily sign off on without a second thought. For Keanu Reeves, whose baseline is set so far above ordinary human patience that fans have spent decades collecting evidence of his kindness like trading cards, it's apparently shocking enough to build an entire video around. Which of these moments surprised you the most? The outburst caught on video, the middle finger photos, the Sunset Boulevard shouting match, or the Alison Silva trial and its verdict? Let us know in the comments which one changed how you think about him, and if learning about his sister Kim's illness reframed any of it for you. And if you want more real stories about the people behind your favorite movie stars, hit subscribe. We've got more of these coming every week.